On the night of December 23, 2013, 22-year-old Ilona Flint finished her late shift at Macy's in the Westfield Mission Valley Mall in San Diego, where the Christmas holiday rush had kept her working until 12:22 a.m. She headed to the parking lot to meet her fiancé, Gianni Belvedere, but Gianni was not there. This was unlike Gianni, and growing increasingly concerned, Ilona called his brother, Salvatore, to pick her up. Once Salvatore arrived, the two of them searched the parking lot for any sign of Gianni or his car, but found nothing. Worried, Ilona and Salvatore got into his car, with Ilona making calls to friends, family, hospitals, and even jails in an attempt to locate Gianni. Their concern soon turned to horror when a man approached their vehicle and opened fire. Salvatore was shot in the head and torso, while Ilona suffered a gunshot wound to the head. Despite her critical injuries, Ilona managed to call 911 at approximately 1:15 a.m., reporting the attack.
911 emergency, what is the reporting? Where are you? At the Mission Valley Westfield Mall. Mission Valley Mall? Hello? Hello? Hello?
When authorities arrived, Ilona was pronounced dead at the scene. Salvatore, gravely injured, was rushed to the hospital in critical condition. As investigators examined the crime scene, they discovered shattered glass and spent bullet casings, but were left with more questions than answers. The primary question on their minds was the whereabouts of Gianni Belvedere. His absence and the disappearance of his car raised suspicions. Had he been involved in the attack, or was he another victim of a senseless crime? Ilona Flint's life had been full of promise. Born on March 21, 1991, in Narian Mar, Russia, she immigrated to the United States with her mother at the age of 7. An academically gifted student, Ilona was a state finalist in Utah's Do the Right Thing writing competition in 2005. She later attended Grossmont Community College in California, where she pursued her interest in psychology. Her relationship with Gianni had begun as a teenage romance when they met in high school in Provo, Utah. Over the next 7 years, their bond deepened, culminating in their engagement. Ilona had moved to San Diego to be with Gianni, who worked as a restaurant manager alongside his brother Salvatore in the family's Italian restaurant. While Salvatore fought for his life in critical condition at a local hospital, the urgency to find his missing brother, Gianni, grew. The Belvedere family turned to the public for help, making an emotional plea through media outlets, asking for any information that could lead to Gianni's whereabouts.
A tearful plea from a family that has suffered over the past 3 days.
Their brother is missing, his fiancée was killed, and another brother is in the hospital in critical condition. 10 News reporter Allison Ash is live at police headquarters, where in the past 90 minutes, homicide investigators revealed new details about the Mission Valley Mall shooting, and where family members also shared their pain.
Yeah, you could really see the pain and the grief on their faces as those family members spoke here outside of San Diego Police headquarters, but they didn't want to talk at all about the shooting. Instead, they were focused on the missing brother who disappeared right after those shootings happened, and nobody seems to know why.
Johnny, if you're watching this, or if anyone knows where our brother, Johnny, might be, please, we need him to come home. We love you and miss you very much. Mom and Dad need you more than ever.
Family members held hands and shed tears as they begged for any information about this man, 24-year-old Gianni Belvedere. His fiancée, 22-year-old Ilona Flint, was shot and killed in this car parked at the mall on Christmas Eve morning. His brother Sal was with her. He's now in critical condition as two closely knit families and homicide detectives search for answers.
Johnny, if you hear me, please
Call me, call your family. We do need you right now.
Police say they don't know what, if any, role Gianni Belvedere played in the shootings. They now believe there was not a robbery involved.
On December 26, 2013, 3 days after the initial attack, the Belvedere family's tragedy deepened when Salvatore passed away from his wounds. His death elevated the case to a double homicide, making the investigation even more urgent. Investigators now faced mounting pressure to determine whether Gianni's disappearance was linked to the shootings. As the investigation progressed, detectives began to explore the possibility of a love triangle gone terribly wrong. At first, the theory seemed plausible, especially given the brutal nature of the attack and the personal connections involved. The idea of a romantic dispute escalating into violence could explain the motivations behind the shootings, especially if there was a history of tension or betrayal within the family or circle of friends. However, as detectives delved deeper, the evidence began to contradict this theory. Interviews with friends, family members, and acquaintances of the Belvedere family revealed no signs of infidelity or intense jealousy. People close to the victims spoke highly of Gianni and Ilona, and there were no accounts of any romantic turmoil that might have led to such a violent confrontation. With this theory eliminated, investigators had to turn their attention elsewhere, knowing that they were now dealing with a case that could be far more complicated and sinister than they had initially imagined. The focus shifted toward other possibilities, including financial motives, personal grudges, or even connections to organized crime, as detectives continued their search for answers. A 911 call came in from Riverside, California, over 100 miles from the scene of the mall shootings. A passerby had reported a foul odor emanating from the trunk of a car. When authorities arrived and opened the trunk of the vehicle, identified as Gianni Belvedere's green Toyota Camry, they discovered a decomposed body inside. Given the advanced state of decomposition and the car's connection to Gianni, investigators quickly confirmed that the body was indeed his. This discovery solidified the belief that Gianni was not involved in the deaths of Ilona and Salvatore, and only deepened the mystery surrounding this case.
I'm going to get right to that breaking news now. Police in Riverside have confirmed the body found in the trunk of a Toyota was that of 24-year-old Gianni Belvedere.
I'm
Bill Griffith.
I'm Virginia Cha. Belvedere's fiance and his brother were shot and killed at a Mission Valley Mall parking lot Christmas Eve. 10 News reporter Melissa Messiha joins us with the new information coming into our newsroom in just the past hour. Mel?
And Virginia, it's the news his family did not want to hear, hoping that he would be found alive. But we received this release from Riverside Police saying the body found in the car is indeed 24-year-old Gianni Belvedere. Now the questions remain. What led to the deaths of these three promising young people? An autopsy complete. Now Riverside Police, Riverside Sheriff's Department, and San Diego Police are working to find out who killed 24-year-old Gianni Belvedere, his fiancée Ilona Flint, and Gianni's brother Sal. And within the last 30 minutes, I spoke to a lieutenant from the San Diego Homicide Unit. He said Riverside is the lead agency on this new development, but will update us throughout the afternoon. Virginia.
On January 24, 2014, just days after Gianni Belvedere's decomposed body was discovered in the trunk of his car, the San Diego Police Department provided the public with new details about a possible suspect. During a press conference, SDPD Lieutenant Mike Hastings, offering a crucial lead in the case. He shared a description of a man seen near the mall on December 23rd and 24th, 2013, around the time of the attacks. The suspect was described as wearing a black hoodie with distinctive white bands on the biceps, tan pants, and white tennis shoes. He was estimated to be between 5 feet 10 inches and 6 feet tall. This individual had been spotted at 11:15 p.m. on December 23rd, and again an hour later, near the approximate timeline of the shootings. Detectives quickly identified this man as a potential key to solving the case. His presence near the mall at the time of the murders raised suspicions that he could be directly involved in the attacks, either as the perpetrator or as an important witness with crucial information. A man was stopped at an interior Border Patrol checkpoint in San Clemente, California. During the stop, authorities discovered a staggering arsenal of weapons in his possession, including hundreds of rounds of ammunition, a homemade silencer, an AR-15 style assault rifle, a .45 caliber handgun, and a .22 caliber pistol with a threaded barrel. Carlo Mercado, 29, was quickly identified as the registered owner of two of the firearms. Despite the dangerous cache of weapons, Mercado was released at the scene, though the guns were confiscated. The California Department of Justice, along with special agents, swiftly began investigating Mercado for the illegal possession of the .22 caliber handgun, ammunition, and the silencer. They kept a close eye on him, knowing that these items could be linked to further criminal activity. Mercado was formally charged with offenses related to the illegal weapons. As part of a plea deal, he pleaded guilty to possessing the silencer, and his DNA was taken and entered into the national database, CODIS. Mercado's DNA came back as a match to an active investigation, the triple homicide at the Mission Valley Mall in San Diego. Detectives were able to make the connection through ballistic analysis, which revealed that the .22 caliber gun seized from Mercado was the same weapon used in the murders of Ilona Flint, Gianni, and Salvatore Belvedere. After months of intense investigation, authorities arrested 29-year-old Carlo Mercado in connection with the murders of the Belvedere family. Mercado was charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder. He pleaded not guilty to all charges, maintaining his innocence as the legal proceedings began.
He called himself assassin on one of his cell phones and left damning evidence linking him to 3 murders.
Well, after 2 days of testimony in the Christmas Eve murders that shocked San Diego, Carlo Mercado has been ordered to stand trial. 10 News reporter Allison Ash is joining us. And Allison, there was a DNA link as well.
Yeah, but that DNA evidence was only found next to the body of Gianni Belvedere. Here in court today, Carlo Mercado's attorney argued that the evidence was thin, connecting Mercado to the deaths of 2 other young people at the Mission Valley Mall on Christmas Eve. The judge, however, did not agree. Carlo Mercado looked down through most of this second day of testimony against him. As we learned, it was his DNA found on a Febreze bottle next to the body of Gianni Belvedere. His body was found stuffed in the trunk of his car 3 weeks after his brother Sal and fiancée Ilona Flint were gunned down on Christmas Eve in a mall parking lot. A forensics expert who studied one of Mercado's cell phones dropped the first bombshell of the day.
What was listed on the calendar for December 24th of 2013?
On that date, there was a single entry, R.I.P.
The next bombshell came when we learned about another of Mercado's phones.
There was an iPhone 1 that had the device name and display name of Assassin.
And on his computer, evidence of a search for a particular type of movie.
They all had to do with like hitman or assassin type characters.
We learned one of the loaded guns found in his car in January was the one used to kill all 3, but there was no evidence Mercado pulled the trigger.
I think what this court's left with is more questions than answers.
But the judge had heard enough. She ordered Carlo Mercado to stand trial on all 3 murders.
However, the trial preparation faced a significant delay in 2016 when Mercado was hospitalized following a drug overdose while in jail. After receiving medical treatment and stabilizing, Mercado was returned to custody, allowing the legal process to resume. Further investigation into Carlo Mercado's actions revealed disturbing details that suggested a pattern of exploitation following the murders. Shortly after the killings, Mercado filed a false insurance claim on his motorcycle, which he had been riding the night of the murders. After fleeing the scene of the killings, he returned the following day with a U-Haul truck and trailer to retrieve the bike. Upon arrival, Mercado discovered that his motorcycle had fallen off the back of the truck during the journey. Rather than report the incident as an accident, Mercado filed an online insurance claim, falsely stating that the motorcycle had been involved in a crash. Although the insurance adjuster expressed doubts about Mercado's version of events, the claim was processed, and Mercado was awarded $2,539. The claim, filed so soon after the murders, deepened suspicions about Mercado's involvement in the killings and his possible pattern of manipulating circumstances for personal benefit. More than 3 years after the killings, Carlo Mercado changed his plea to guilty. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, avoiding the death penalty initially sought by prosecutors. Deputy District Attorney Brian Erickson described the murders as a random act of violence stemming from a road rage incident. Mercado had no prior connection to the victims, making the crime all the more baffling and tragic. Prosecutors pieced together a timeline of events. On Christmas Eve 2013, Gianni was waiting in his car to pick up Ilona when Mercado approached, likely intending to steal the vehicle. Confronting Gianni, Mercado shot him and placed his body in the passenger seat. He drove to a gas station, leaving DNA evidence on the gas cap, and then returned to the mall to retrieve his motorcycle. Meanwhile, Salvatore and Ilona, unaware of Gianni's fate, were making calls in the parking lot when Mercado returned. Spotting Gianni's car, they attempted to flag it down, only for Mercado to open fire. Using a .22 caliber gun with a silencer, he fatally wounded Salvatore and Ilona before fleeing. In the aftermath, Mercado took steps to cover his tracks. He placed false plates on Gianni's car, abandoned it in Riverside with Gianni's body in the trunk, and attempted to sell it. For weeks, he tried to mask the odor of decomposition with air fresheners. These efforts ultimately failed, leading to the discovery of the car and Gianni's body. The senseless murders of Ilona Flint, Gianni Belvedere, and Salvatore Belvedere left a family grieving and searching for answers. While Mercado's conviction brought some measure of justice, this heartbreaking case reminder of the fragility of life and the lasting scars left by senseless acts of greed and brutality